Welcome back to the online edition of the People's Film Festival 2022. This is a hybrid event with both physical screenings and streaming online. And if you haven't already, you can get your pass at kinoshortfilm.com. We have a full access pass, which includes all cinema screenings, or an online only pass for £5, where you can watch all 40 official selections and vote for your favorite film to win. Over the past few days, we've had some amazing chats with some filmmakers and a few panel discussions, one about short film finance, another about short film distribution, with some great guests from Genera, Omeletto, Director's Notes, Short of the Week, and Clipist. And all of those are available to rewatch. But right now, we're here for another Filmmaker Q&A. We're chatting with Aglaja Filipovic. I'm so sorry. Aglaja Filipovic from Alone Together, and Ellie Heydon and Toto Bruin from PELICANS. Welcome, and so sorry for butchering your name, just because I was rushed.
Don't worry. It is complicated even here, so it's fine.
Did I say it somewhat okay once I finally got it there?
Yeah, it's Aglaja Filipovic. Yeah.
Filipovic. Apologies again. Well, welcome. You guys have some brilliant films in our festival this year, and I just kind of want to start off talking a little bit about yourselves as artists, a little bit about your background, and then we'll start chatting about your films. We'll just go around. Why don't we start with you, Aglaja?
So I'm from Serbia, from Belgrade. I used to study film and TV directing at Academy of Arts here in Belgrade. I graduated in July, so this is also my graduation short film. So it's pretty special.
Nice. And this isn't the first time you've submitted to our festival as well. I was looking, last year you were a semi-finalist for your previous film, You Know What I Have Nightmares About. And now this year you made official selection with Alone Together, so congrats.
Thank you. It was really, like, when I got the notification, it was like a full circle moment, because last year I tried, and then this is like the next step. So I was really happy.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you submitted again. Toto and Ellie, you guys are from the same production. You're from PELICANS. Ellie, just want to tell us a little bit about yourself. I did some research. I know you started out as an actor, is that correct? And then went more into production.
Yeah, guilty. So I started as an actor, I trained as an actor, and I worked quite a bit in TV, and I founded a theatre company that works to platform and sort of celebrate women in the arts. And it was sort of through that and the fact that we had no money whatsoever that I started directing, because we wanted to showcase all of the actors that were coming through. So I volunteered to direct the shows and fell very, very much in love with it. So my sort of way into screen work came through dramaturging theatre plays, really. And so, I moved into screen about 2017, and PELICANS is my fourth film. And I think my work revolves a lot around dark comedies, a lot about death, a lot about love, and like the tragedy of love. And I've more recently moved into TV and long form, so sort of shifting around, but I love the short film format so much. So we're so pleased to be here, so thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's going to be a lot to chat about. Definitely want to ask more questions about some of your credits and some of your upcoming work, which sounds very exciting as well. But for now, Toto, do you want to give us an introduction as well?
Yeah, sure. So yes, I'm part of the team PELICANS. I couldn't work out how to put PELICANS in my little bracket. But yes, I am an actor and a writer. So I was a writer of the film. And kind of my work also sort of focuses around dark comedy and like black comedies and finding the funny side in tragedy. And so PELICANS was my first short. And since then I've written another short, and I've just moved on to writing another short that's in pre. So I just kind of like also love the short film format. I feel like you can make such tasty, funny, heartwarming stories in such like snippets. So I'm also kind of moving on to TV and stuff now, but my heart will forever stay in the short film format because it's not easier, but it's very satisfying.
Nice. Well, I know one of your bigger credits is It's a Sin for acting. Are you writing for TV as well?
Yeah, so I started writing for TV, something that I'm trying to like work towards. It's kind of where I'd like to end game myself. So yeah, I've got a couple of things at the moment that are sort of starting to kind of move on. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I know, thanks for joining us a couple months ago as well. We hosted another panel discussion about actors creating their own work, which we featured you at, which is one of the only Kino events that I didn't attend because I was having a baby that day.
Terrible excuse. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So we haven't yet meet face to face, but appreciate you spending the time to join us for now a second time. So let's start moving into chat about your films. Why don't we start with a little bit about Alone Together? I know it's black and white, as was your previous film as well. Beautiful cinematography. Tell me a little bit about the background, why you decided to make this film, tell the specific story, and then maybe we'll get into some good production stories.
Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to try and make a film about the question about what will happen once you leave your home. And since a lot of people here in Belgrade usually leave country around, I don't know, 20 or later, I kind of find myself in that position. So I wanted to try and see what is it like coming back after you leave for a certain time. So I wanted to also try to make like little play inside one place, like in a room. So that was like the first steps I knew I wanted to try. And then from that, I just wrote the script. It was a lot of drafts. It was a lot more dialogue before. So I kind of tried to, it was really challenging to try to find a dialogue that sticks at the end. So I think I hopefully succeeded with that. And with the black and white, since the last film was also in black and white, I was thinking, should I do this one in black and white as well? Because it feels like kind of repetitive. But since I felt like this is a story, I wanted to try to feel more like a memory and like something, since they're coming home to their hometown. So I wanted to try and make it more like a memory. And I know myself, I really love black and white photography. So I tried to portray that in the film. And I think it looks really well. So I'm happy it sticks. But the next film won't be in black and white because I should move the color. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's gorgeous cinematography, and some of your locations just suit so well to black and white, like the opening shots that take place in the airport. Those are just absolutely gorgeous. So well done there. One question I did have about your piece that I found was so unique is, you know, it's the fact of essentially two strangers sharing a hotel room, and the catalyst for that being obviously the guy approaches the girl and says, hey, just want to stay in my room for the night. And I feel like in this post Me Too world, that's a very bold way to start a film. Yet your film really just goes more into the naturalness of it rather than the creepiness of it. What was your thoughts as far as balancing that awkward dynamic in the context of your short?
Well, I always ask myself if I was in her place, what would I do? And I would probably never say yes. So I try to go to the other direction and explore what would happen if I was in a situation and said yes. So I kind of went with that. And also, like, one of the things that I really try to kind of see is that usually, like, sometimes it's much easier to open to strangers than to open to some people that are probably closer to us, like family and friends. So also wanted to explore that as well. So I think that's why I put them together in a room.
Makes sense. Well done.
Yeah.
We can move on to Pelicans now. It probably makes sense just to start, I would assume, with you, Toto, since you wrote it. Did you write the draft prior to showing it to Ellie? Is it something that you were kind of developing together? What was the genesis of it?
So yeah, it was something that I wrote quite a few years before me and Ellie started working on it together. But I wrote it and then I just like kept it in a folder on my computer for ages. And so it was left untouched. And then when me and Ellie started working on it together, we kind of collaborated and sort of like honed it into kind of the perfect version that it ended up being. So yeah, the answer to that.
And I see. And then Ellie, what was it that drew you to this particular story?
It was really interesting at the time because we So my sister's my co-producer in our production company, which didn't have a name at the time, but is now called Pelican Productions after this film because we love it so much.
Apropos.
Yes, we'd received a promised pot of funding that, as so often happens, never came to fruition. And so we're looking out for scripts, and we read about 400 scripts, and it was so funny. So we shortlisted 4 each. And the one that overlapped was Pelicans, and both of us were like just obsessed with it. And I think at the time I was watching a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos. The End of the Fucking World had just come out, and those sort of really deadpan, hyper stylized but still very evocative pieces of work were really appealing to me. And so yeah, we read it and immediately were like, Toto, let's come sit down. We've got to chat about what we can do with this. And then we did work and change the script a bit, because there were certain elements that because we shot on the 2nd of January, so it was incredibly, in the bleak midwinter, and the original script had a series of moments where the actors were sort of fully submerged in water, and on our absolutely shoestring budget, I was like, I'm not really sure we're going to persuade these actors that aren't getting paid to like also die of hypothermia. So we edited the film, edited the script, and Toto was so amazing at just, we like would distill what the moment needed in terms of a feeling, and she could just come up with like 5 or 6 suggestions about how to do that in such a creative way. So it was a really fun collaboration at the script stage.
Amazing. Yeah, that reminds me of just one of my favorite quotes that I always just kind of drill into the ground by Paul Schrader of Taxi Driver. Screenplays aren't literature, they're invitations to collaborate.
I love that.
I know, I love that one too.
I want to write that down.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about the production. One of my favorite things is, what was like the biggest challenge that you faced, and what was your solution in how you overcome it? So what was the biggest challenge on Alone Together?
It was for sure, like, since it was a student film, it was we had not budget, at least a small amount of budget. And since you always try to like move forward with your next film, you want it to look more professional and better. And I think it was like more of finding the right people who are willing to help us make this film together. And I think I was really happy at the end, because I feel like I found people who really felt like it is their story in their film as well. So it was kind of like, it was like a journey finding the people, and of course later the money for the post-production stuff that we need. So I think it was always the struggle. And the casting, for me, it was also finding the actors, because this time it was really important. And it took me a really long time, because I tried to find like 2 people who would really work well. So I found them, and I think it was really the hard process, but I never experienced something like this before. So it was really a nice one.
Nice. So it's more finding those key collaborators that come on board and believe in the project just as much as you do, rather than day players that come in and out, right? Yes.
And I think it's really like, when I look at the film now, I really feel like it's everyone's baby, like it's everyone made it their own. So I'm really happy with it.
That's wonderful. And how about any stories with Pelicans?
I'd say a huge obstacle to overcome was, and this is a massive spoiler, so if you haven't seen the film already, soz.
Plug your ears.
Plug your ears. But as you'll know, Dustin, there's a character, Gareth, who is buried alive, and then remains like the majority of the film buried under the ground. So yes, working out the logistics of that, not only for the actor who was buried alive, but also the location was incredibly wrangled by our location manager, Jack Cooper Stimpson, who did a massive solid, because trying to shoot on the beach in Hastings was costing us like hundreds of pounds a day, which is money we didn't have. There was no budget at all. And so he'd sort of sweet talked I don't know what the official name is, but like the Hastings Wrangling Society. And so we were shooting in front of like where live boats were going in and out. And so obviously burying alive a person when there were these massive fishing ships going in and off the beach was quite a stressful situation. But we overcame it, and we kept like, if they'd walk past, we'd sort of hide him and be like, no, it's all fine. It's all fine. So it was a lot of cheeky maneuvering. But yeah, I'd say that was probably What do you reckon, Toto? That's our biggest obstacle.
Yeah, I feel like the beach in general. I know we sort of discussed there was like a period before where we weren't even sure if we're going to be able to do it on a beach. So having to figure out alternatives, which seems kind of wild now because it's so based around the sea and like life cycles. But yeah, we had that weird month where we were like, should it be in a school? Should it be in somewhere indoors, which won't be a massive issue?
Oh yeah, we did recce like primary schools to try and get that same element of like childhood nostalgia. But oh yeah, that's
out in the
nuts.
end.
So glad it's on the beach.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just from a logistical standpoint, anytime you're shooting outside in winter, wind, all those things is, quite a challenge. How many days did it take you to shoot?
3.
We were there for 4. I mean, we got so lucky with the weather. It was like, first days of January, but we got some good sunshine. It was still pretty cold, but yeah, we really lucked out.
Interesting. So did you have to bury him every day?
We'd scheduled it so that he was only buried on the last 2 days, but he's like the most gorgeous actor you'll ever meet, Aiden Cheng, and he was like, no, it's absolutely fine. And then we would dig him out at night, and the box that we'd had him in that was sort of crowbarred to stay up had like collapsed and was like really crushing his legs, but he was like, no, it's fine, it's great. So yes, I owe him a huge favor at some point.
It took his lunch breaks in the sand being fed sandwiches.
Yeah, I love that.
We had to get him out like every 30 minutes, didn't we? That was like
oh yes, I should say I am joking, like he was looked after. before I'm attacked
after welfare.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to shoot alone together?
It was 4 days. 4 days.
4 days.
We were 3 days in a hotel room, and we did exteriors for 1 day, and the airport the other day as well.
Nice. Any other locations difficult to wrangle? I would imagine the airport in particular might have been.
The airport, it was terrible. We first tried to find it, and they said they charged it like enormous amount of money, and then we kind of like I don't know how we managed, but we kind of like just said we need just like we can be there in 45 minutes, and we bought them like a box of chocolates to the lady who's like the manager or something, and we just came there and shoot it as soon as we can. So it was like it was really hectic. I mean, I don't know. I'm so happy we have the shot because it was like 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So it was amazing.
And it's a great way to open up the film too, because it establishes everything, obviously.
Yeah, that's what we talked about it. And my producer said, does it need to be the airport? Can we do it somewhere else? And I was like, no, we need the airport. So we got it. She found a way.
That's great. A box of chocolates goes a long way.
It was done, yeah.
Indeed. Switching back to Pelicans for a minute, one of the things that I was really taken by was just the element of visual storytelling throughout it. Obviously, the themes are so prevalent, but you don't explicitly tell the audience pretty much what is going on at all, but you know exactly what's going on. So just curious if you could comment on like, how did you achieve that perfect balance of giving the audience enough information to connect with without like hammering them over the head with dialogue? But you just nailed it.
I think that firstly, that's a great question, and I have to give credit to Toto really, because the script is so it feels almost like a piece of poetry to me, and there's lots of visuals. And then also, you know, the great thing about filmmaking is obviously when you're then on location and you're suddenly inspired by what's going on around you. Like there's a shot where they first see sunrise towards the end of the film, and just as we were getting that shot, a murmuration of birds like flew and flowed across. And like moments like that are incredibly beautiful. But I think when it came to the edit, there was a lot of an awareness of like coming back to the sea and the idea of like life being in a cycle. And we kept talking about it needed to feel like childhood and very joyful and playful, but also like purgatory. And so I think having those as staples just was really useful to keep coming back to. I don't know if you want to say a bit more, Toto, on your side of things, because it is so, as you know, like the text is incredibly crisp, and we cut out anything that wasn't completely useful. So it's it's like skinny on dialogue. But that was, yeah, I think very much a choice and something about the style. And we ended up cutting. So if you obviously see each new member of the ensemble come in representing a new stage of grief. And there was a final stage that was sort of the acceptance stage that we had. We had this VW camper van and like another couple of actors, and we had a dog, like all this like really funny stuff, which I'll send to you because it's worth a watch.
Deleted scenes.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
my best mate was playing the actor, so he was incredibly pleased to be cut. But we just had a sense that when they walk up the beaches, that very final shot, I was like, I think this is acceptance. Like they've managed to do it, and just I think at every turn, which this is sort of my motto when it comes to short film, is like cut out anything that isn't completely necessary. But yeah, so much of it, that sort of sharpness came from the script and was written in there. So credit to Toto, really.
Yeah, I mean, basically everything that Ellie said. I feel like I feel the same in that I would way rather let the audience kind of work things out and only say what needs to be said and not tell anyone anything. And I guess kind of going on the theme of sort of grief and like young people and grief, like lots of young people don't really know how to talk about their feelings, let alone sort of grief in general. So I felt like it sort of naturally kind of flowed into the sort of style of the piece to just have them not really discussing much at all, but more kind of experiencing. And
yeah, it's fascinating that way because you definitely get everything that it's about, and I can guarantee you that probably 99% of filmmakers would have added dialogue to explain that, thinking they needed it. If I wrote it, I would have thought I needed it, and it's so fascinating to see, like, oh wow, yeah, don't need that.
It's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just say on that note, it was for ages I was like, oh, how do we pin down what our log line is, because it all feels quite abstracted. And this, of all films I've made, was the most interesting when it came to always like just before we lock the cut, we send it to like a close circle of industry people for feedback, and just the range of feedback we had from people and what everyone had taken from it was so interesting, and so much of it didn't line up. That we sort of were like, actually, maybe this is what this film is that you sort of take from it what you need to. And particularly we'd sent it to a couple of people who had experienced grief recently, and the way it resonated with them was so different to how it resonated with friends that like were like, oh, it reminded me of going on holidays to the beach. So it felt like quite special in that sense, because it was like a smorgasbord of different opinions from the feedback.
And just to follow up with that, how receptive you are to feedback, especially when it is contradictory. I was having this conversation with a filmmaker yesterday who said he received some absolutely great feedback that really changed the course of his story. And I've noticed two things. There's the people who workshop their story so much that they work the magic out of it and they just need to have more confidence. And there's others that don't workshop it at all when they really needed that feedback. So I'm curious, and this would be good for everybody to comment on. How do you know when to incorporate a note and when not to incorporate a note?
What's it? I think it's Ron Howard that says, hear everyone, but listen to yourself. And I think that's really interesting. And I would say, if you would have asked me this question 2 years ago, I'd be like, I'm deeply insecure. And if anyone gives me any negative feedback, I'm like, oh, they're probably right. Whereas I think nowadays I can really feel in my like guts whether I agree or disagree. And I also work with an editor, Dave Davis, who is I'd say my closest collaborator. He's absolutely amazing, and I trust him down to the ground. So I think that's is it Aglaja you were saying earlier, that thing of building the team around you of people that you trust. But I'd say it's really hard. I think it's really hard when people give really strong feedback to not be affected by it. Unless sometimes they're like, I hate this because it sort of feels like this. And you're like, well, that's exactly what I was trying to do. So that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's an ongoing thing. But yeah, I always feel sick when you send it out for feedback.
Yeah, it's a tough bit.
It's a tough thing.
Thoughts on feedback and when to not incorporate it?
Well, for me, it was like a different kind of feedback because I had to report it to my professors.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like ongoing struggle from my 4 years of studying at the academy because I kind of like certain things and they're like more traditional. So I always find the conflict there. And since this one was like my last film at the school, I was like, I'm doing it my way. Whatever, I will listen. I will listen what they're saying, but if it makes sense, then I will accept it. If not, I will just kindly like thank them and move on. But there was some things that they really pointed out that I really listened to. But like for me, I always try to listen to people that I kind of know are in the same, have same feeling and sensibility of the films. And that really, I always turn to them. So it's kind of more like towards them than the professors in this case, because this was like for a student project. But yeah, people around me and most of them.
Did you get graded on the piece?
Yeah, I did. I got the maximum grade.
Good.
They loved it, so I was like, yeah.
Good. Toto, do you want to comment on the same question?
I sort of agree with everyone else. I think it is really hard. I mean, as a writer, I very much have like a trusted circle of people that I will share my scripts with and share notes with. And definitely over the last couple of years, even with them, I've kind of figured out when to stand my ground on something or when to sort of know that, what they're offering is, so yes.
One of the things that I notice as well, I'd be curious if you guys relate to it as well, is when you get notes from somebody who seems to be solutions oriented versus someone who just seems to be just negative for the sake of being negative. I always tend to gravitate towards those people who you can tell they want the best for your project, not that they just don't want to commandeer your project and turn it into something that they want it to be.
I also think it's really specific to short film because it requires a certain a knowledge of the restrictions, because like I've definitely sent stuff to people before and they're like, oh, it'd be really cool if there was like an outside shot of the car, and you're like, no. That, you need to sort of have a context for how restricted we were in shooting it and how much there is no other option, and so I think that's sometimes frustrating, getting feedback people who don't necessarily contextually understand the limitations of short film. But yeah, I think it's about finding that trusted circle who's also people whose opinions you agree with, because everybody has different ideas of what makes a good film, and you want somebody to align with you, otherwise they're pointing you in the wrong direction.
Indeed. And then timing of notes too. There's nothing worse than when you get script notes in the after you've shot the film in the editing stage and there's nothing you can do about it. It's actionable notes that I always think are super important. Well, let's move on from the note topic. I'd like to chat a little bit more about the festival journeys you guys have been on. Any highs, any lows, and how's the festival circuit been treating you thus far? Any good milestones for Alone Together?
Yes, we started, I think, in October. It was the first festival in Naples, Italy. And we won an award for Best Student Project. And it was my first award. So it was kind of like, thank you. It was really like a nice way to start. But like for me, it's always, I never think about, the awards and things. It's always for me like you have a platform to show your film to the bigger audience and to the different audience. So for me, it's always the most important that when you are selected, you can show your film. So I was really happy it got the award because it means something to me that I'm doing something right. But after that, we continued. There was a couple of festivals, I think now 10 festivals it's been around the world. And hopefully until maybe summer, there will be more, I hope.
Nice. Are we your UK debut?
Yes, it's a premiere.
Great. Yeah. What about Pelicans? How's Pelicans' journey been thus far?
It's been really interesting. I'm doing the film festival circuit with another film at the moment, and it's realizing the differences between everything, because we're coming towards the end of our festival run with Pelicans, and so much of it as a result has been online because it was sort of all through the pandemic. And I think I felt really I suppose like had a grief in a way about not being able to come and connect with other filmmakers. So I'd say a huge high was Pelicans was chosen as one of the judges 6, which is sort of the best of the festival at Exit 6 Festival. And it was shown in like the biggest cinema I've ever been in ever. And it was so overwhelming. And we did a road trip up there, myself, Lydia and Toto. Lydia's the producer. And I think watching that, firstly, so many of the films there were just so well done. So when you sort of see the caliber of the films and realize you've been selected as one of the best ones, that was incredibly humbling. But also just seeing it on the biggest screen I've ever witnessed in my life was really emotional. I was like, am I going to cry? And I did. But yeah, that was a highlight. And also there's a festival that's a smaller festival, but I think their ethos and the team behind them are like unbelievable, which is a festival called Women X, run by Riam Pictures, and they support female identifying creatives. And we were nominated for Best Ensemble there. And they are, for sort of any female identifying people out there, they are such a cool festival, really grassroots, really creative, and really invested in bringing people together and stuff. So that being a part of that festival was really gorgeous as well. And yeah, it's been great. I just wish we could have been in person more. Really excited for Saturday to come and see Pelicans.
Yeah, that'll be great. Exit 6 is a great one. We actually are speaking with the festival director later in our panel. And I know Mark, who started the festival pretty well and everything. And I actually met your sister. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that background noise. They're doing some construction.
It's very
futuristic. They should have stopped by now. But I actually met your sister at the Exit 6 Mixer last fall, because my film had screened at Exit 6 the previous year when it was 100% online. So I never got to experience that lovely cinema, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
But, yeah.
Oh, yes. No, she did say.
Such as
we have
COVID.
The same face.
What's next for you guys? What are you working on? I was looking at a little bit of your bios. And Pragma sounds very interesting. That's something that's in post right now. Is that correct?
That is incorrect, Dustin. But
that is incorrect.
But good try. No, so we've actually finished Pragma, and that's doing the festival circuit at the moment. It just world premiered at Underwire, and
great.
It's premiering in the US, but we're not allowed to talk about that, I think, for like another 6 days, so it will come out soon. And yeah, that's I'm developing that into a TV show with Monumental Television, and we're pitching that to streamers and broadcasters at the moment. And so yeah, that's really fun to be doing the festival circuit with the short film, having like worked on the TV show for the last sort of 18 months, coming back to look at the short film in its own entity it makes me realize that whenever I talk about it, I am making up the wrong story, because the short film is its own thing. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm up to at the moment. And I'm about to directing my first TV show, which I'm like so crazy excited that I like keep feeling like it'll be cancelled because I'm just too pumped for it. But yeah, and that'll all come out soon as well.
Nice. Just one quick follow-up on that one. I mean, you obviously have some pretty heavy-hitting talent behind there. That's very much with the Ted Lasso crew.
It is.
How did all that come about? What's your relationship with Ted Lasso?
So I shadowed on the TV show in season 1, and I always think it's very important to state that it's entirely nepotism, because my partner is an actor in the show, and he produced the short film, and so it was his first time producing. His name's Phil Dunster, and he just basically is incredibly good and kind person, and so I think people want to come and work with him.
The opposite of his character.
The opposite of his character, exactly. Yeah, that everyone was like, what? But yeah, so it was him. He got Jason on board to EP it, and asked Nick Mohammed, who also stars in the short film, as one of our sort of rubbish professors at this school. And And yeah, and I think off the back of that, we worked with a really amazing casting director called Lucy Amos, and she was able to recruit honestly such amazing talent. And I think it was because it was in the middle of the 2 lockdowns and everybody was twiddling their thumbs and so desperate to do something. And it was like jackpot timing, because I shot another film in November of last year, and actually trying to find crew and trying to find cast was so much harder, even though Pragma, there's about 180 people involved in Pragma in total, and it felt like relatively easy to get people on board, whereas our crew was like a tiny little skeleton crew of like 16 people, but it was really hard in November. So yeah, I feel very grateful for the timing of it. But yeah, I love it. I'm really pleased with that short film. It's slightly longer, but it's really proud of it.
Can't wait to see it.
I'll send it to you.
I would love to. I would love to see it. Aglaja, what is stewing in your creative world?
Well, we are now developing a TV series, a pilot. We're writing a pilot for now with my friend, so we're kind of focused on that. I also tried to direct music videos. So I mean, kind of it's a new thing, but I'm trying it. And I have like a short film that it's in the early stages, but I hope I'll finish the script until the winter, so we can shoot it again.
Nice. What are some of the themes that you're exploring in it?
In a TV series that we're working, it's like a murder mystery, because I really wanted to try to do a murder mystery, but I never found it like in a short film I can make it. So I was like, if we're doing a series, let's try to make a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery set in like a small town on the seaside, and it's like 4 friends coming to a vacation, summer vacation, and then we learn something from the past happens, and we kind of like, each episode is like from a different point of view from the character. So I think it would be interesting to develop it more into characters. And the short film is about, it's still like in early stages, but it's my idea is to set like it's a love story happening with 2 people at the end of the world. Like the end of the world is happening and they meet. So we'll see.
Well, I look forward to seeing those as well. Definitely hit me up once they're ready.
Thank you. I will.
And Toto, what's on the horizon for you?
What's on the horizon? Good question. So the last short that I wrote, we are now in like post-production, so that's going on at the moment. It's really exciting. It's about a rent-a-mourner, which is someone who's paid to go to empty funerals. So that was so much fun to do, and we filmed that in October now.
Sorry to interrupt. You worked with Greenlit to crowdfund that. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
And they're one of our sponsors.
Yes, it was a wild ride. We basically did it in a month, so it was all a bit crazy. But big thanks to Greenlit for helping us through that stressful time. We got there in the end, and yeah, I'm written another short film which is sort of in development, moving into pre-production hopefully in the next sort of month, which would be really exciting. For like my last 2 shorts have been quite like military operations, and this one's going to be a lot more sort of stripped down and lower budget, which I think will be really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, and just sort of doing.
If I can ask, what's the theme of the?
The theme is, this one's much more of a straight drama. I do sort of dark comedy, but this one's much more sort of serious isn't the right word, but it's basically about 2 characters who haven't seen each other in 10 years, and there's a big secret between them, and it's sort of set in real time, and we sort of go on the journey with them, trying to figure out like what's going on and what's going to happen.
Fantastic. All right, so we can wrap stuff up here. I just have one final question for you guys. It can be kind of a good quick fire round. What is one piece of advice that you would give to up and coming filmmakers? One little nugget of wisdom that you think is worth passing along, and whoever is ready first can go first.
I'll go. I would say I feel like I spent the first 2 years pretending I knew everything because I was scared people would think that I was unqualified. And I think what I've realized is the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. So just ask questions if they're dumb, and build the team around you that plugs the gaps that you don't have. And also it helps if those people will then teach you. But like when I started out, my technical knowledge of anything and everything was so embarrassing. But working with a DOP who had the grace and kindness to sort of, you know, not make me feel dumb for asking dumb questions. So yeah, I would just say ask all the questions that you don't know the answer to. Don't pretend you know any more than you do, but build a team around you that covers the holes that you definitely leave hanging.
Good advice. Who'd like to go next?
I would say that they should just do it. I mean, don't have to wait for like a perfect moment, because I know myself, I was like always waiting. Is this good enough? Will I have the equipment? Will I have the money? Blah, blah, blah. Just do it. It doesn't matter. The next time it will be better. The next time it will be even better. So it's important to just do it.
Absolutely. You learn so much from doing rather than just waiting for the right atmosphere. Toto?
When you find nice, kind people, keep them close and keep employing each other. I feel like, yeah, when you meet people who are kind and passionate, it's so important to, yeah, just share your experiences with them and sort of keep working with them.
Fantastic. Well, great advice. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Just a quick little spiel here at the end. In a little over an hour at 7, I'm going to be chatting with a variety of other festival directors and programmers, including Paul Anderson from Exit 6 Film Festival, Adrian Barber from Bolton Film Festival, Denise Gossett from Shriekfest, Philip Ilson from London Short Film Festival and BFI London Film Festival, and Danny Moltrasi from Rain Dance. This discussion will be centered around giving filmmakers insights into what curators are looking for when programming short film and how to get the most out of the festival circuit in 2022. So I hope all the listeners and watchers will be joining us for that. And thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Cheers. Enjoy the festival.